I'm going to hold up a picture. I'll just talk for a second till we get a few more. We're up to 17. So I'll talk about what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks, just so we can visualize who's going to be here. Next week, it's Mo on vacation. Maxfield will be your host. Greg will be continuing to give a little more lesson on swing, but also the history, his history with the Rossmoor Band. Why did he come? What has he learned? And what could he share with us? Also, a great, great alumni, student alumni associates, brother and sister team, Michael Henning, you met him last week, but his sister Christina, who played flute with us. And they're going to talk about what it was like to be family and be on the stage together. We need someone next week to step in on It's Not Jazz. And we need it seriously. So someone who'd like to get Maxfield a piece of music that's one of their favorites, but it's not jazz, would be really, really helpful. Any volunteers, let me know. You got to have a piece of music, like a classical piece of music, a country western piece of music. Oh my God.
In order to keep it from being country western, I'll volunteer if nobody else does.
Oh, well, hey, it's open to anybody. Okay. But are you going to volunteer?
Yeah.
Okay. James, we won't ask what the piece is. So long as it's sent over to Maxfield in advance, he can put it in the program. So can I mark you down for that?
Yeah, okay. I got to figure out what I want to submit.
Okay. Got it.
Mo?
What comes to mind are all jazz pieces.
Mo?
Yes.
This is Ron. I'll volunteer for the week after that if nobody else wants it.
Hold on. I'll take a look at that. It's not jazz. It just turned out to be Ron.
Okay. Let's see. That would be what?
That is that's August 5th.
August 5th. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then let me keep going. We're up to
20.
20. We're getting there. We need It's Not Jazz for August 12th and August 19th. Do we have anybody?
Sure,
Anybody?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Jan,
Thanks, Jan. Okay, so Jan, you are It's Not Jazz on August 12th.
Okay,
Okay, and then August 19th, do I have to recruit anybody else? Let's see.
I'll try it.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Erlin, August 19th is Erlin. That's great. That'll take us out far enough right now. So let's see where we're at, and I'll tell you a little more. We're at 21. So what's exciting for me right now is we're in that period where we're going to visit the history of the band, and you can't visit the history of the band without looking back at some of the people that were in the band. And we're focusing on the student associates that were there back then, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we have a nice lineup. Of course, Evan Groover's with us tonight, and I'll be more than happy to introduce him in just a minute. But we have Billy Buss, who was younger than, he's older than you, Evan. I'm going to hold a picture up of him. He's a professional trumpet player now. He travels all over the world. He sells out wherever he goes. I don't know if you can see that. Will that work? That's Billy Buss and the Rossmoor Band. And when he plays, we're going to listen to him play Mood for Trumpet with the band. So that's Billy Buss. He's going to dial in with us. And we have Angela Falk. We have Ben Ebert. We have, I have a whole list. No sense guessing. But there's quite a few people that are interested in basically letting you know what the value is of the band experience as they left and went through life with it. Some of them are now 30 years old, but the experience is something that they want to share with you. And so we're going to we're going to get going. We're at 21. We hope we get up to 25, but it is vacation time. I'm making excuses. We've got Dash on board and Gabby. So, Ron, are you here? Ron?
He sure is.
Yeah.
For those of whom are muted, those
Oh.
willing and able, this would be the time to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, unmute yourself because we have something special. 5 seconds in, or 5 minutes in, Maxfield,
Yeah.
take it away, Maxfield.
All right. Well, here we go. For those who got our memo, we have a birthday coming up, and we were wondering if we could all join in a spastic, loud, annoying, awful happy birthday that only could happen over Zoom. And so if we could just do that, let Ron, happy birthday. I know it's coming up, and so I'm not sure about the best way to go about this, but how about a 1, 2, 3, 4?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ron. Happy birthday to you.
You are so beautiful. Oh,
Thank you.
Well,
I think you started it a bit slow.
hey.
I don't know if we
Anybody's
can,
recording
It's
this.
a
I'd like
ballad.
to hear that.
Yeah.
Max, it's in triple. It's not in duple. You should have counted.
Oh my God.
Oh, geez,
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Challenge with a
is why
different
you
time
lay
signature.
things on Zoom one track at a time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everybody wants to wish you a happy birthday, Ron. And-
well, thank you very, very much. I don't know how you found out that today's my birthday, but
well, the IRS was looking for you. They happened to give me a call, and they were asking for identification information, and I said, "You're kidding. It is his birthday." So that's how we found out.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, they're saying you overpaid taxes
No, that never happens.
and they want to give it back. All
Oh,
right.
that's good.
So,
All right.
should we begin?
Let's.
So, welcome everybody. Our program tonight for July 22nd features number one, the history of the band called Under the Wings. That's the name of the program tonight. And number two, student associate alumni and student band leader, Evan Groover. Evan will share with you his thoughts and his values about the band. He's an amazing musician, scientist, gentleman, role model for all generations, and student director past for the Big Band of Rossmoor. Would you give him a big welcome right now? Yay. There we go. And a very good friend of mine. And then third is Charles Schretzmann, his piece of music that he'll introduce under the program called It's Not Jazz. So grab a soft drink. Charlie, grab a hard drink. Those in the middle, grab a medium drink. And let's all relax and enjoy and hear and feel the pulse of the Rossmoor Big Band in its second episode of its history that I'm going to share with you. This week we visit the roots of the band's patriotic history. When I joined the band in 1996, the band had many World War II veterans. The value of their war experiences, blended with the music of their period, was an amazing thing to behold. The value was immense. It's one thing to listen on the radio to Moonlight Serenade. It's quite a different situation when you're dancing it to get in the airplane 6 hours later and go on a raid. And so we met these people. They were the Rossmoor Band, and I'd like to share with you their names over the years. And this is just one group of them. Our many veterans included Earl Cunha. He was one of our vocalists, Army captain. Bud Daly, our original trombone player, U.S. Marine Corps. Herb Daly, his brother, United States Army. Charlie Bird, we're going to talk about him. He was U.S. Navy. And do we have a picture of him anywhere? Yeah, we do, don't we? Do we have a picture of Charlie? If not, I'll tell you about him when we get there. Okay. Vernon Brown, Bob Sutherland, U.S. Army, Herb Sontag, U.S. Army, Charles Schretzmann, U.S. Marine Corps, Les Peterson, U.S. Army, Nick Longo, U.S. Navy, Frank Como, United States Army. These are just a few of the original members going back 25 years ago that, if you will, made sure that the music from that period stayed alive. And of course, you know the rest of the story. So patriotic we are. And I'm so proud that this band, over my 24 years, can perform any military song or patriotic song at any time. And we have on land and on sea. And we'll show that to you. So let's begin under the wings of the Collings Foundation's Boeing B-17 and consolidated B-24 Liberator. This is the Liberator that we've played underneath. Its name is Witchcraft. It still flies. It's owned out of the Collings Foundation in Stowe, Massachusetts. Let's see. It was the first plane where I served as crew. I actually was part of a bomber camp about 10 years ago. I've been to 2 of them. And the B-24 Liberator was the first plane that I experienced what it was like. And the reason I'm going to revert to all that, these planes and the experiences, is because through those relationships, we developed the relationship with the Collings Foundation out of Stowe, Massachusetts, that owns the planes. And it's a very tight relationship. We are their only stop throughout the United States where they land and they can count on a World War II band underneath their wings. They so appreciate it. And so we've got a relationship with them. Maxfield, did you sneak that in there?
I snuck this in here.
Yeah.
So this is an article that was written about the experience that Mo went through. And if you look at this picture,
hang on, that's Smithsonian Air and Space magazine.
Take a close look at these folks in this picture, and then hold on a second. We know this guy. And then I thought to myself, that guy looks awfully familiar. I just want to put that in there.
They tried to arrest him. Their planes, they have 2 bombers. They're the only bombers in the United States where the bomb bay doors are not welded. You see a submarine in port, a bomber in the air are still considered weapons by the Defense Department. So if it's the USS Pompano, because it has weapons on board, down in Fisherman's Wharf, that submarine, they have to take the propellers off. In the case of a bomber, they have to weld the doors shut to the bomb bay. And these are the only 2 where the bomb bay doors are not welded because they have the license to drop false bombs. The Collings Foundation is the only group of people that have those credentials with the FAA to be able to do that. So, oh, great. So on your left, we had weapons training. That's a 50. And you don't want to sit behind that on a hot day. It's really noisy and you could get hurt. And over on the right is the actual bombardier's chair. I'll show you a little more of that later. That's my position in the B-17, where we drop bombs bombs without explosives. Just north of Stockton by 100 miles, we dropped 6 bombs. And there's my bomber crew down below on 909. And unfortunately, that's the last picture you'll see. 909 went into the ground this last year, as I shared with you. It was flown into the ground. The reason is still under investigation, but she was the most beautiful B-17. She had a lot of history with the Collings Foundation, and I served as bombardier in the front nose of that on that final run with a bomber camp. That was the last bomber camp too. So let me keep going. I'm going somewhere. After meeting the Collings Foundation and people from Stowe, Massachusetts, they got used to the big band of Rossmoor. And I would often get a phone call in early January. Are you guys going to be at Livermore? Yes, we are. What can we do to help you? So there we are. And let's see. You can see it from here. We've got lots of people playing. You'll notice Ryan Kapoor and Maxfield and Charlie on the right. And yeah. Hey, Evan, what's the name of the young sax player?
That's me and Matt Richards.
Matt Richards. Where is Matt Richards? He's like a guru, right?
Matt Richards is the most talented young sax player that I've known in my years. He's finishing his degree in music at USC right now.
Wow. That was a powerhouse.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
an incredible musician.
Yeah. So on the final day of my bomber camp, we flew about 100 miles north to a spot marked with white chalk, elevation at about 3,000 feet. And I was the bombardier. I'd been training all week long to hit this button 6 times. I'd studied on a thing called the Norden Bomb Sight. I'd studied it for a year. It's a very sophisticated piece of equipment. If you ever did any research on World War II, we were the only people, the United States, that had a bomb sight that could drop a bomb using 16 variables to calculate the exact trajectory the bomb would have to make, so that if you were back 3 miles, you release it, because the bomb's going to keep traveling at the same speed of the airplane, but you've released it. And so this Norden bomb sight could spot on pretty much where to release the bomb, and it would end up on the target. So that was a trick to do that. And so I did let 6 bombs, or eggs, go, as they call them, and they went back and did a fact check, and I didn't get even close. How could anybody imagine that in a week you could do what it took those men in 1942, 43, and 44 months to learn how to do? Great respect for anybody that is around that equipment, a B-17, a B-24, any of the bombers. It's a unique piece of equipment. So, as I said, 909 crashed, and we'll find out what the cause of the accident is. But my good friend Mac was the pilot, and he was the pilot on 909 for 30 years. He was the #1 B-17 pilot in the United States. And so when that plane went on the ground, I know something had to happen, because he's just not anybody. You'd want to fly with him anywhere in that airplane. Something happened. And if we had that video, I think I could show you some of it, but maybe we'll get it later, Maxfield, next time, okay? So we're going to move on.
Mo, just a lighter moment.
Yeah.
Charlie here. I came across a sign that was in a mess hall on one of the Navy ships, which I always chuckled when I first read it. It said, if you see a bomb technician running, try and keep up with him.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't suppose anybody has any questions about bombers right now. If you do, you can hold it off. I know there's a large group of you, that's just written down a lot of questions for me. Okay. So, what I'd like to do before we leave is I'd like to show you a picture that hangs on my wall in my den, and I hope you can get a Maxfield, tell me left or right. But this is the Rossmoor Band underneath Witchcraft. And Nick Longo, tell me if you can.
Perfect.
How's that? Now I'm going to come in closer, because under the ladder, do you see the ladder on the right? Get closer, and the guy on the very far end, his name is Nick Longo. He's on the very far end where the ladder apex comes down. And the reason I'm bringing him up is because he was with the Rossmoor Band a long, long time. He was a gunner on the island of Leyte in the middle of the Pacific. And Nick was missing a finger. He had a stub. And if you remember him, and he wanted to play clarinet again, but you can't play clarinet because he missed the finger. He's missing that middle finger. Has to punch one of the keys down, right, clarinet players? Yeah,
Right.
I know a lot about this. So anyway, we took him down, and he got Dick Ackright at A&G Music, Best Music Repair, to put a little extension, soldered an extension on to the clarinet key, and his stub was custom fit. And from that day on, he was the loyalist person in the Rossmoor band with a clarinet. Now, you know what that meant for me. That was, it's a dangerous combination, but he was the nicest guy, and from New York. And I'm about to tell you a story that day that picture was taken. The guy on the ladder is changing the oil on number 2 engine. And the guy on the ladder says, I heard you were in the Pacific. I heard you talking. He goes, yeah. Where were you? I was on late, Nick says. The mechanic goes, I was on late. Were you on late on, November 44? He goes, yeah, that's when the Japanese attacked the airfield. Nick goes, that's where I lost my finger. The anti-aircraft gun kicked, and it took my finger off. And this guy was over on the other side of the field fueling planes. And they were on the same field on the same day, and they met each other under the wing of the B-24 Liberator. And I had to share that with you. It was just one of those stories. And Nick was a real hero, and he loved the Rossmoor Big Band. And I had to share that with you. All right. Now we're on. Guys, don't get so choked up on all this stuff. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so next is the Navy. Okay. Ready, Maxfield. So the Big Band of Rossmoor has sailed at least a dozen times on the Jeremiah O'Brien, which is a Liberty ship used to transport equipment and men in World War II. This ship is tied up at Fisherman's Wharf. Ship has been to Normandy Beach twice, once on D-Day and once on the 75th anniversary of D-Day. If you take a look at pictures of D-Day and what it looked like, you can spot the Liberty ships. You can spot the Jeremiah about a mile offshore, along with some others. The ship was left, let's see. So it was there on D-Day, and it was there on the 75th anniversary. The ship left San Francisco on its steam engine. It is steam powered, and it's 3-piston reduction steam engine that runs like a top to this day. And they took it all the way to Normandy and back. The President of the United States gave his address at Normandy on the deck of this ship. The Titanic's engine room scenes were filmed in the engine room of this ship. Most of our appearances were for Fleet Week, and we were privy to meet the gentleman, Rear Admiral T.J. Patterson, who hosted us many times. He's the one responsible for saving this ship from the mothball fleet. He physically got the pink slip from the Department of the Navy and hauled it over, and they started to refurbish it as they raised money. He loved the Rossmoor Band, and we dedicated one of our CDs to Rear Admiral T.J. Patterson. And if you'll read it, it says, the time, June 6th, 44, the mission, D-Day, the ship, the Jeremiah O'Brien, the music, Big Band. And so it's a great, great CD. And if anybody else wanted to check one out for me, I have a few left if you're interested to listen to it. But this was a really good CD that we did. Okay. The probably most historical sailing was a full ship of 900 aboard over to the mothball fleet about 10 years ago to Sassoon, as we had a docent tutor us on all 90 ships that were about to be scrapped. It was a special cruise. It was a private cruise. People, really wanted to see that. You'll all remember there were a lot of ships over there in the mothball fleet, and now there's like 4. So we did the final cruise called the Ghost Cruise to the to the mothball fleet. And then we also got to see the USS Iowa that was there. That's a very famous battleship that was there. Okay. Now the Iowa, okay, we'll keep going here. I'm going to talk about the Iowa. The Iowa is an Iowa-class battleship. Its closest relatives were the USS Missouri, the New Jersey, and the Wisconsin. And the Iowa was sent off by the Big Band of Rossmoor on its final night in the Bay Area as it sailed off to its final resting spot, which is in Long Beach Harbor, next to the Queen Mary. I wanted to see if we could find a picture of Charlie. I just don't see him here in any of these pictures.
But I know he was there.
Yeah, well, let me describe what happens. Charlie Burt was someone who we all loved. Evan, you played right next to him for years, didn't you?
For years, yeah.
Yeah. And he was the nicest man. But every time we would play the military songs and we'd get to Anchors Away, he would turn into a different person. He got very sad. Often he would start tearing. And a couple times he cried. And so I had to take him like over to the side and go, Charlie, what's up? You know, we're on stage. And he goes, man, I can't help it. What's wrong, Charlie? He goes, then he started crying. He goes, I was in the water. I was in the water. I was in the water. I said, Charlie, you were in the water? He goes, 3 times. They shot the ship out from under him 3 times. He was in the water. He's one of many heroes that you'll never hear anything about. So when we play Anchors Away each and every time, to this day, I think of Charlie Burt and what he gave to us, because he was in the water and he was in pain still anytime he heard that piece of music. He was very loyal to the band. So that's pretty much, there was an article, I'm going to hold this up. There's a picture of the Jeremiah that was in the San Francisco Chronicle the day that we sailed. Their best photographer took a picture of it from the bridge, from the Golden Gate Bridge. I actually have this downstairs. It's on my wall, the actual photograph in color. I'll pull this up. This was the article of Fleet Week, and that is the Jeremiah O'Brien with the Rossmoor Big Band on board. Al Hart sang I Left My Heart in San Francisco as we broadcast to KCBS that morning from underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. It was very historic and very touching day for the band. So we're closing up the history on the Navy. We should probably put some music in here before I bore you to death, but I hope you're enjoying some of the background here on the band and, you know, why we are where we're at. In 2004, continuing on with our connection to the military and or respect for our soldiers, in 2004, I think that's the right year, the Lafayette War Memorial building was dedicated. And the Big Band of Rossmoor played the very first notes. The community sang God Bless America to Frank Como's arrangement. And the band was thrilled to be selected and to represent the many generations celebrating that day and the triumph of a war memorial building in Lafayette. And since then, the band's performed at the Lafayette War Veterans Building many, many times. And so I wanted to make sure that was in our history. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to cover was a tribute to the troops. So this was, that was about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, with the Rotary Club that I'm with and the Rossmoor Big Band, we produced a tribute to the troops. And its purpose was to say thank you to veterans, to active duty military, to Gold Star and Blue Star moms, and so the public who never has a chance to say thank you. I mean, when do you get a chance to say thanks to a soldier or an airman? That's what this was about. And it was a large picnic, and We didn't do it this year for obvious reasons, but it usually draws 500 or so people. First year it was like 800. On the top left, that was our opening year. That's the Blue Stars, they're called, the dancers. They're wonderful. On the right, we're active duty from Travis Air Force Base. On the left is the band. And down below, you'll see Peggy. She just died about 2 months ago. She was in my Rotary. She was a wave, and she died at 97. And we are handing her flowers on stage for her service. So that is the tribute to the troops that we continue to support. So if you sum it all up, the Rossmoor Big Band is very patriotic. Our roots are from our founders who were in World War II, and we continue to put value on that because where else can you hear that music anymore? And where else do you hear military music and or in a celebratory way? So wanted to share that with you. And finally, before we move on to Evan.
Mo, could I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
This is Ron. I was just wondering if you've got some wonderful histories here of the band, and I'm wondering if these have been transcribed into some print material that can be saved for futures.
Well, the closest we have is the recording of this, because I have lots of photographs, as Maxfield saw. There's so much history here, and I'm just one guy, and I never thought anybody would be that interested in it, actually. You know, I'm interested in it because for obvious reasons. It's brought so many people together. The mission of introducing younger people to the music of World War II, them getting a chance to meet the veterans like Charlie, someone who was actually, in the military, real time. And the music that it encompasses was very valuable to me. I'm from Iowa, so this is Midwestern style values, guys. I hate to say that, but that's where it comes from. We had parades on Memorial Day, and the soldiers actually walked down the street, and there were Jeeps and tanks, and the airfield had planes. You don't see any of that anymore. So I don't know how to answer that, what kind of history we would put down, but I don't know if anybody'd really look at it at some point. I mean, that's something for us to all think about, okay?
Hey, Mo.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry I joined late. My water polo ended at 8, so sorry I joined late. And sorry I missed the last two Zooms.
Yeah.
I think I texted you your number, but I don't think you got it. Or maybe you did. But I was on vacation, so I couldn't join. I had no service for most of the trip, so I wasn't able to
no problem.
join.
We welcome you back.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to join.
Yeah.
Mo.
Yeah.
This is Cynthia. Do we have a track off that CD from the Jeremiah O'Brien that we could play?
I don't know how I could do that right now. I have it. Maxfield, you don't have it, do you?
We looked on the website, and
it's not there.
There was
it's
not
called,
there.
I have. I mean, I could show you a copy of it right now. But how about some other time? We could do that. I just don't have it here, and there's no way I could get it over to the Zoom. I have it downstairs, and I have quite a few of them.
There are
If you would
videos.
like to check one out, let me know. I'd be happy to loan you one. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions before we move on?
The 909 has a Wikipedia page. You go type B-17 909, and you get to page 2019 Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress crash, and it's got the results of the preliminary NTSB investigation, and it doesn't look very good for the Collins Foundation. They took away their license to take passengers.
Well, what happened? In a nutshell,
technically, they shouldn't have flown that day. They had bad magnetos on
number 2.
On number 4, jury rigged with safety wire and was inoperative. Right magneto found to be serviceable. all spark plugs on number 3 and number 4 engines had been gapped improperly. And there were problems with the cylinders on engine number 3. So you got 2 engines on the one side that weren't working.
Not good.
And that goes with the way they found the configuration of the airplane when it
that's horrible news.
Yeah,
That's
it went
horrible
down
news.
short of the runway. He was bringing it
Yeah.
back.
What city was that? Do you remember where?
Wikipedia. Just
No. What city did it go down in? What airport?
city?
Massachusetts, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's their home airport.
No, it wasn't. That's all right. That bothers me to hear that news, but it is preliminary.
Bradley International Airport, Windsor Locks, Connecticut.
There it is. Yeah, that's too bad. I hate to hear that. That draws a lot of questions.
Yeah, and the other note, like that's kind of neat seeing that we were on the Jeremiah O'Brien and like that. I don't know if we have any contacts with still the Jeremiah O'Brien or even the aircraft carrier, even though that's more of a Vietnam area.
Talking about the Hornet. Yeah, we'll talk offline. These relationships are very interesting to talk about. That's all I'll share.
Okay.
All right. All kinds of stories I could tell you to share with you what it takes to get on board a ship that's managed by World War II guys. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to move on now. I hope you enjoyed that history segment. I enjoyed sharing it with you because it's dear to my heart. And we're going to move on now in section. Let's see. We're going on to
Evan
Groover. There you go. So Evan's on the far right, and that's before he had a growth spurt. And that's a joke, guys. And Joe Barton on the left. You guys will meet him. He's in line to talk to you guys. And then in the middle, what was his name? Matt Richards.
Matt Richards.
He was like 7th grade right there, and he blew everybody away. Everybody. Mary Fettig thought he was God, in the 7th grade. He was just so talented with the Rossmoor Band. So, Evan, what are you going to cover tonight? What do you want to do? Tell us what you're up to.
Well, Mo, I have a lot of positive things to say about the band. I've itinerized it a little bit for myself, but I'd be happy to answer questions if you have them. But if I mean to impart anything from all of this, it's just about the enormity of good that the band brought into my life when I was an adolescent and since. I have continued to play music, and I've played jazz professionally since I've been in the band, and I think it helped me so much as a student of music when I was young, and also just as a citizen, being involved in it. It was a really, really positive experience. So I'll just get talking, Mo, if you don't have any agenda for me.
No,
okay.
Not at all.
So I'm going to start by telling you how I got started, because the story is actually pretty funny. So I was in 7th grade at Stanley Middle School. I grew up in Lafayette. And I remember I was really good friends. I was a pretty nerdy kid, as you saw in the previous photo. And I was really, at that point in my life, mostly just interested in playing saxophone. And many of my friends were also really serious about music. And I remember my buddy Joe Barton, I was kind of the first alto at the time, and he was always the first tenor. He would always come to school on Thursday mornings, and he would have a ton of candy with him. And I would be like, Joe, where are you getting all this candy, man? And he's like, well, my buddy Maurice gave it to me at the Rossmoor Big Band rehearsal. And I was always jealous being, without candy, about how he got to this candy. And, I began to ask more questions, and I came to understand that, actually some of my favorite young musicians in the area were playing in this community big band called the Rossmoor Big Band. And so I was, sure enough, the word got out that I was, trying to play sax, and I graciously accepted the invitation to come play with the band. And I ended up playing with the band from 7th grade to my senior year in high school, when I became, correct me if I'm wrong, Mo, but I think I was the first student director of the band.
You are the first student director of the Rossmoor Big Band.
I completed my Eagle Scout project for Boy Scouts, kind of in collaboration with the band and Generations in Jazz and Mo, and have made lasting friendships and relationships with many of the people that I met through the band. So suffice to say, it was really a very impactful thing for
Tell
me.
them about your Eagle Scout project with the band. It's the first ever of its kind.
Yeah. So for my Eagle Scout project, I was in Troop 204, which is on the corner of First and School Street over in Lafayette, right by Stanley Middle School. And to achieve Eagle rank, I completed a project that was basically a used musical instrument drive that was mostly facilitated in Rossmoor, collecting old clarinets and trombones and tubas and snare drums out of people's closets. Mostly older folk, it turned out, and donating them to the music program at Westlake Middle School in Oakland. So it was enormously successful, if only because of an incredible collaboration with the band and the foundation. That was a serious hallmark of my time playing with the band.
It was like 30 instruments, was it? That you...
It was 47 instruments.
That's it, 47 instruments that were recovered. And unfortunately, a large number were clarinets, I understand.
Yeah, a lot of clarinets and it's a lot of fun. I actually got to try my hand at amateur instrument repair during that period as I was trying to repair all of them and make sure they were up to snuff before they got donated. So I just wanted to share with you all a taste of the culture when I was in the band, because really Mo looks back on this period fondly, and when I talk to him about it, he seems to remember that we were these angelic children that played saxophone. And my memory is very different. I remember us just pretty much goofing off all of the time. Myself and Joe Barden and Sammy Barden and Aaron Grant and Shane Lewis and Connor Anderson, all very talented young saxophone players in my section. And so I was the first alto. I got to sit next to the aforementioned Charlie Burt, and I remember we would intentionally play out of tune. We would not tell one person we were going to play like a quarter step flat or something, and somebody would be like, what's going on, or we would come up with elaborate dance moves for the trombone solis or something, and I think at its peak, I think a lot of the band members and student associates especially might relate that you spend so much time playing these same tunes that by the end everybody's part. I mean, I could, just from where I'm sitting, I could probably play Erlin's part just because I've heard him play it behind my ear so many times. So we would really mess around, and we would like play other parts, and we would occasionally, I would be playing the first tenor's part as the first alto, and like it was like all these years Mo was really none the wiser at the time. He still hasn't figured us out, but there was a lot of goofing off back in those days. The second thing that I think I really took away from Rossmoor is that I really think that it was probably the most important musical thing that I did as an adolescent. It really, not only was I exposed to some of the best musicians in the county that were my age, Michael Henning, Styles White, Maxfield, all these cats that really challenged me to step up my musicianship, but I also got to learn all these old standards that, when you're a student of jazz, it's so important to understand the history. And so looking back, I'll be on a gig and, there's no other reason why I would know the words to, Kiss Me Once or, to The Look of Love or like all these old tunes, except for that I got to learn them through the band. And so that has been enormously valuable as I've gone into, I'm not a professional musician by trade, but I do still play quite a bit. And that's been really, really helpful as I've moved on in music. And then I only have 4 things. This is the third, Mo, so just with regards to timing. The third is that I really gained so much from exposure to the seniors in the band. And really through playing in the band, and actually this is very relevant to what we talked about tonight, I really developed such, or began to understand the debt of gratitude that we owe to our greatest generation. And really in knowing Charlie Burt and Les Peterson and Nick Longo, kind of understood the sacrifices they made, in the war, and that was very, very impactful. And I think the story of Charlie is maybe a really good example of just how, much this music conspicuously meant to them, and to have the opportunity to have them share it with us was just it's very emotional for me. It was a really really impactful, and has really imparted in me such an appreciation for that era of music, and then also the musicians and the people that lived their lives through that music, when it was popular. I have a lot of Charlie Burt stories. I'll probably have to rein it in. Charlie Burt was a real character, man. That guy, he was just a real, a absolutely frenetic alto sax player, and I learned a lot from the way that he played, because he really did it, man. I had the luxury of being playing in the 20 somethings and the 2010s and getting to hear a lot of modern saxophone players, but Charlie, man, was just playing it the way they played it, and I learned a lot from that. And then the fourth and last thing that I think really has shaped me and shaped me from the band, and I think it's something that we all have a relationship with, and that was just Frank Como. And I know Frank is gone now, but Frank was frankly pretty old when I knew him. He was still a great dude and a total cat, but to hear his music and to understand, his mind as an arranger and as a composer, he was just a master, and we're all so blessed to have the opportunity to understand his mind as a musician through his arrangements. And so I can show you, I'm in my apartment and I got all my horns behind me. I was doing a bunch of arranging today for woodwinds, and I was just reflecting on how so much of my ear was shaped by Frank Como and his arrangements, and the decisions that he made in leading the band. I think there are few figures in my life who have impacted my musicianship as much as him, and I think that would still be the case even if I had just played his arrangements, at the level that I have. We're really lucky to have had Frank. So, in some, I loved the band. It was probably the hallmark of my adolescent years, and it was so fun, and it was just like all my friends in one place, and we were playing this this music, and it was such a really essential experience for me. But I think if it's imparted one thing in me as someone who's now kind of gone beyond the band, it's just the imperative of preserving that music, and making sure that future generations remember this songbook that is so integral, to our identity as Americans and as appreciators of jazz music, and etc. So I think I feel very privileged to be able to have been able to study this music at the level that I have, and understand it in context through the band. And I feel very adamant that it will be one of my life's missions to see that it's preserved and appreciated far beyond its time. And so that is I feel really so grateful to be in that position as a result of being in the band. And so that's everything I got canned, Mo. I got
well. That was pretty good. First things first. Thank you.
Mhm.
That was amazing to hear you. Yeah, exactly. Kudos. But there was a lot of soul that you just put into all of that. And for those of you who don't know Evan, like perhaps Maxfield and Charlie and some of the others, he's one of the, like I said, he's a gentleman. He's just a very unusual guy. Can you tell us a little of your path? Spend a minute or two. First of all, where are you right now? Geographically in your apartment, where are you?
Yeah, I'm in beautiful North Berkeley right now, just across the street from Chez Panisse.
On the corner.
Yeah, right on the corner there. Right by
yeah, above the cheese board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought it had to be either the city or Berkeley.
So you studied at University of Washington in Seattle.
Yeah.
Right? And what did you study?
Yeah, so I went to UW through their honors college, and I studied molecular biology.
And now where are you?
And I am now pursuing my PhD in biochemistry at UC Berkeley.
Yes. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I study plants.
and I get to ask this. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Amazing. We are so privileged to have you tonight with us, Evan. And it just such a such a joy to see the student associates return and give us their perspective, as they look in the rearview mirror, what's valuable. And I'm hoping some of our student associates are listening or will watch the recording so that they can pick up on it, on the vibe.
Yeah, I think if I can say anything to the student associates is that, well, I hope you keep playing jazz. Playing jazz is really fun, and I've done it. I minored in music in college, and I continue to play professionally here in Berkeley. But that, yeah, if I can double down on any statement, it's that the band helped me so much as a musician. That really it was so many of those experiences that I had in the band that really encouraged me to stick with playing jazz and really studying the tradition deeply and understanding my place as someone who's playing jazz in a modern context. So it was enormously valuable to me, especially in a musical regard.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for Evan? Please ask a question. He can't just show up and just walk away.
A PhD at 25 is pretty awesome.
PhD is a long game, so I'm still a few years out from the actual degree.
Oh, okay. A PhD at 30 is that's normal.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
You just fell in love with something new. I think it's on your bed, but it's not what everybody thinks. You want to hold it up?
Talking about me?
Yeah, you just got it. Remember? You just.
Oh, yeah. I got a new horn, and it's fantastic. It's a 1952 Selmer Super Balanced Action, and man, I'm the closest to sounding like Charlie Burt that I've ever gotten. I bought this horn because I really I liked my old one, and but it didn't let me emulate the style of really old alto sax players like Art Pepper and Charlie Parker and Paul Desmond and the great first altos, Marshall Royal, Johnny Hodges, and Charlie Burt, man, who was playing on a crazy, for the sax players, a really old Selmer Hummingbird, which was like just such an oddity. I've never seen another one in my life. Yeah, it was like you'd see it now, and it doesn't even look like an alto. Like it was just totally alien to me at the time. But I'm still chasing sound, man. It's
I have a question. Evan, what kind of music are you playing now? What kind of ensembles? Well, not right now, but what were you doing until recently?
Yeah, I so in my college years, I played kind of far afield from Rossmoor, a lot of like experimental and improvisational music, and then also a lot of just roots, combo jazz, and I have been in rock bands for the past 6 or 7 years. I'm actually my best gig right now is a rock band. We're called Controlled Burn, and we play all over the area, so keep an eye out for us. But I think I do a lot of jazz stuff still, and I think I recorded an album that was improvisational music actually over Zoom during quarantine that's about to be released. So a lot of really clinging to my roots, but I like playing parties too, and I think being in a rock band is pretty fun if you're a sax player. So all over the place, I guess, is the right answer.
That's great.
So Evan, what's your dissertation going to be?
Yeah, great question. I am a genetic engineer, so I'm hoping to engineer plants such that they can be more effective at taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. I'm simultaneously developing technologies that are kind of improving genetic modification and genetic engineering across organisms, and then specifically applying them so that we can fix all this CO2 that we accidentally dumped into the air. It's a fun gig. We if you don't know, Berkeley is kind of sitting on a revolution in genetic engineering technology recently called CRISPR-Cas9. And I specifically work on that technology, so it's very exciting time to be in Berkeley.
I graduated from the College of Chemistry in Berkeley, and the woman that was one of the people that were instrumental in there, she's quite a theoretician, I think, and a fabulous business person to develop that CRISPR
Yeah,
technology.
yeah. Her name is Jennifer Doudna. She'll have a Nobel Prize within a few years. She's a close collaborator of mine. She's a fantastic scientist and absolute paragon of, what might be a better society enabled by genetic modification.
Yeah, she's really done remarkable things in that technology.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys are following it too. You're developing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. Where I've been very significantly involved over the past few months, using that CRISPR technology to kind of make more effective test kits for COVID. And so the scientists have been working in this period, perhaps suffice to say.
I've read about that in some of the articles from the Cal. Yeah, that you guys are working on it for COVID technologies.
Yeah, we're working hard. Yeah. So
well, good luck with that.
Thank you. I hope if it's not us, I hope somebody succeeds.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll say goodbye to Evan at the end of this, but I want to thank you, Evan. You're not leaving, are you? You're not going to go downstairs and get some food or anything at Saul's Delicatessen across the street?
It's still open, yeah.
I really think tonight was great. I really appreciate Evan and all of that he imparted. And I'd like to take this moment for all of us. We can't hear each other, but raise your hands with me and give him a big Rossmoor Big Band. Welcome home is what I'd like to say. We love you. Yeah. From here, I would just say have a nice week, okay? And thank you so much for joining us for this 17th episode of Director's Notes. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks, Evan.
Thank you, Evan.